The snowflakes fell silently against the window of Sarah Chen's cramped apartment as she stared at her phone, her finger hovering over the "Confirm Payment" button. $50. That was all she could spare from this month's already stretched budget, money that should have gone toward Emma's new winter boots. But as she glanced at her 7-year-old daughter sleeping peacefully in the next room, clutching her worn teddy bear, Sarah knew she had to do this. Just this once, she wanted Emma to experience what other children took for granted, a Christmas with two parents who cared. Even if one of them was paid to pretend. Sarah had never imagined her life would come to this. 3 years ago, she had a husband, a comfortable home in the suburbs, and dreams that stretched as far as the horizon. Then came the gambling debts she knew nothing about, followed by Marcus's disappearance in the middle of the night, leaving behind only divorce papers and an emptied bank account. She'd moved from Connecticut to this tiny Boston neighborhood, working double shifts as a nurse while her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, watched Emma after school for whatever Sarah could afford to pay her. This Christmas was supposed to be different. Emma's second-grade teacher had assigned a project. Students would share their family's holiday traditions with the class. For weeks, Sarah had watched her daughter's face fall a little more each day as her classmates talked about baking cookies with both parents, opening presents together, and gathering around dinner tables filled with laughter and love. Emma had started inventing stories about her father, saying he was away on business, that he'd called, that he'd promised to come home for Christmas. Sarah's heart broke a little more with each lie, knowing Emma was trying to protect them both from the pity in other people's eyes. That's when Sarah had stumbled across the website. Rent a Date seemed absurd at first, but as she scrolled through profiles of people offering companionship for events, family gatherings, and holidays, an idea formed. For $50, the lowest price she could find, she could give Emma a few hours of normalcy. A fake father figure who would show up, smile for pictures, maybe play a board game, and leave before the fantasy crumbled. It felt desperate and foolish, but wasn't that what love sometimes required? Foolish courage in the face of impossible circumstances. Marcus Whitfield had never spent a Christmas feeling this empty. Despite being the CEO of a multi-million-dollar tech company, despite the penthouse overlooking Boston Harbor, despite the invitations to exclusive parties and charity galas, he felt profoundly alone. His success had cost him his marriage, his relationship with his teenage son who now lived with his ex-wife in California, and somewhere along the way, his sense of purpose. This year, his assistant had finally stopped asking about his holiday plans, recognizing the hollow look in his eyes. On a whim, scrolling through his phone late one December night, Marcus had created an anonymous profile on a companion rental site. Not because he needed money, the thought was laughable, but because he needed to feel human again. He'd listed his rate as $50, the lowest amount the site allowed, and created a vague profile under the name, Mark. No photo, just a simple description: good listener, decent conversationalist, can follow instructions. He'd expected nothing to come of it. But when Sarah's request appeared, need a kind person to pretend to be my daughter's father figure for a few hours on Christmas Day, something stirred in his chest. The raw honesty of it, the vulnerability, reminded him of emotions he'd buried under spreadsheets and stock reports. He accepted immediately, refusing to examine his motives too closely. Christmas morning arrived with fresh snow blanketing the city. Sarah had cleaned their small apartment until it gleamed, strung dollar store decorations across the walls, and baked chocolate chip cookies despite the broken oven timer. Emma bounced with excitement, her gap-toothed smile lighting up the cramped space. When is he coming, Mommy? When is Mark coming? Soon, sweetheart. Remember, he can only stay for a little while. Sarah's stomach churned with guilt and hope in equal measure. When the knock came, Sarah smoothed her worn sweater, took a deep breath, and opened the door. The man standing there didn't match her expectations at all. He wore an expensive-looking coat, carried a bag full of wrapped presents, and had kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. But it was the uncertainty in his expression that struck her, as if he too was terrified of getting this wrong. "Hi, I'm Mark," he said softly. "I hope I'm not late." Emma appeared beside Sarah, curiosity overcoming shyness. "Are you really here for Christmas with us?" Mark, knelt down to her eye level. "I am, if that's okay with you. I brought some games and, well, I wasn't sure what you liked, so I might have gotten a bit carried away with presents." The next few hours unfolded like a dream Sarah was afraid to wake from. Mark wasn't just playing a role, he was present in a way that felt startlingly genuine. He helped Emma build an elaborate castle with her new blocks, listened intently to her 7-year-old wisdom about her favorite books, and even helped Sarah in the kitchen when she struggled with the turkey in her temperamental oven. He asked questions about their lives with what seemed like real interest, shared stories about his own childhood that made Emma giggle, and when he looked at Sarah, she saw something in his eyes that transcended their transaction. During dinner, Emma asked the question Sarah had been dreading. "Mark, why don't you have family to spend Christmas with?" The silence stretched long enough that Sarah started to intervene, but Mark spoke first, his voice thick with emotion. "I do have family, Emma. I have a son. But I made mistakes, I worked too much, forgot what really mattered, and now he's far away. Being here with you and your mom today, it's helping me remember what I lost and what I need to fix." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. This wasn't what she'd paid for. This was real pain, real regret, real humanity sitting at her scratched thrift store table. After Emma went to bed, clutching a new stuffed animal Mark had brought, Sarah and Mark sat together in the dim light of the Christmas tree. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. "I'm not who you think I am. My real name is Marcus Whitfield, and I don't need the $50. I run a tech company downtown. I joined that website because I was lonely and lost, and your request, it reminded me why any of this matters." Sarah should have been angry. Instead, she started laughing, tears streaming down her face. "I paid $50 for a billionaire to spend Christmas with us. This is insane." Marcus smiled, the first genuine smile he'd managed in months. "You paid $50 for someone to remember they're human. That's worth more than anything in my bank account." In the weeks that followed, Marcus didn't sweep in like a white knight to rescue Sarah from her struggles. Instead, he showed up. He came to Emma's school play, helped Sarah negotiate better hours at the hospital, and slowly began rebuilding his own relationship with his son, inspired by the second chance Sarah had inadvertently given him. Sarah didn't fall for his money, she fell for the man who cried during animated movies with Emma, who listened when she talked about her nursing dreams of opening a community clinic, who understood that love wasn't about grand gestures but about choosing to show up, day after day. By the following Christmas, their apartment was still small, Sarah still worked hard, and the challenges hadn't vanished. But when Emma placed a handmade ornament on their tree, a photograph of the three of them from that first Christmas day, Sarah realized that sometimes the best gifts come wrapped in unexpected packages. Marcus had given her more than companionship, he'd given her hope. And she'd given him something he'd lost, a reason to be the man he'd always wanted to be. The $50 transaction had purchased something priceless, a reminder that humanity, at its core, is about connection, vulnerability, and the courage to let others see who we really are. In a world that often measures worth in dollar signs, Sarah and Marcus had discovered that the most valuable things can't be bought, they can only be given freely, one honest moment at a time.